of communities have been on the receiving end of the latest civil unrest and protest. While protests are a democratic right and proudly rooted in South Africa's constitution, a significant number of them have not been peaceful. Most importantly, they have led to the unfortunate loss of numerous lives and bloodshed. But also, significant damage has been caused to property. In most cases, small businesses bear the brunt of this. Now, how can you, as an emerging or even a small business owner, protect yourself? To discuss this, we are joined in studio by Arnold van Linde. He is the Executive Chairman of IntegriSure. Arnold, a very good morning to you and welcome to AM News.
Good morning, Elvis. Thanks for having me.
First and foremostly, from IntegriSure, what exactly do you do?
IntegriSure is an insurance intermediary. We advise clients with regards to their risk and how they must mitigate their risk and do the right thing to protect themselves against these kind of things.
Now, talk about protection. As a small business owner, why should I be concerned? Should civil unrest just break out somewhere in my township?
Well, Elvis, the thing is that, you know, hope always springs eternal in the human breast, so we think that it's not going to happen to us. But if you are in that position, you can suffer irreparable damage.
And what sort of damage that would that be property damage?
Well, yeah, firstly, if you're in a business, of course, personally, your personal motor car and all of your belongings, if anything happens in unrest to that. But then if you have a business, your total business. And sometimes people would think that if my business have to burn down or there's damage or looting or anything like that, then I can merely just replace that. But the biggest thing that hits a small business is that the time that you are not being able to operate and your losses then, while you still have to pay the rent and you still have to pay your staff and all those kind of things.
Now, how can one's business then be protected, especially during civil unrest?
Well, in South Africa, the normal insurance companies by law is not allowed to cover political and or any other labor unrest, any unrest. So in the law, it's written out of normal policies. And that's why in South Africa we've got a company called SASRIA, the South African Assurance for Special Risks, these kind of risks. And you have to ensure, well, firstly, you have to have an insurance policy covering you for the normal things, you know, fire, theft, and those kind of things on your business and on your car. But you have to then make sure that your advisor also advise you to add the SASRIA portion of that. That then goes to this SASRIA insurance company. It's a government-controlled company that's been in operation since the 70s, and that they will then handle those kind of claims. If you don't have the first policy to cover you, that's the first thing you've got to do. You can only have the SASRIA extension once you've got that policy, and then, of course, you've got to take that cover. So
you can't have SASRIA just directly, you must have a policy to cover that.
You've got to have an underlying policy for that.
Okay, now, what about individuals? Can they also be protected by SASRIA or not?
Yeah. I wouldn't, IntegriSure wouldn't sell a policy to you to cover your motor vehicle without making sure that there's SASRIA cover on it. So, you know, wherever you buy your insurance, make sure that there is that extension and that it will be on the schedule separately. And, you know, I always say to people, if you're not sure, ask. Make sure that you ask your advisor about that.
Yes. So what does SASRIA actually cover? Is it only civil unrest?
Civil unrest, political unrest, that is not normally covered in a normal policy by law. So any one of these riots that goes wrong, and or marches or any one of those kind of things. And sometimes on those, you know, the damage runs very high, and of course you don't want your car to be next to the road there and then something happens.
Is it almost like a comprehensive insurance then in terms of civil unrest that SASRIA would cover for you?
It is a comprehensive cover for that kind of unrest and any losses there. And Elvis, it's not that expensive. That's the big thing.
Because that's the next question I was going to pose, because it sounds already that you have to have a policy, and then of course you have SASRIA.
Well, firstly, you've got to have your underlying policy.
Yes.
And that is normal, you know, that goes at the normal market rate, and there's a lot of competition, so you've got to shop around, make sure you get the right cover. And of course, that you compare apples with apples, because that's the main thing in insurance. Cheap, maybe dirt cheap. And then you've got to make sure that your advisor and you add the SASRIA policy to that. And that's really a small portion of the total policy. But you know, it's too late at the time when you've suffered the damage to then be sorry that you didn't add it.
And what are we talking about in terms of that cost for the SASRIA cover? Is it very expensive?
No, it's you know, on a normal car, it's less than 10 Rand a month. So it goes to a big fund. It's a very strong, SASRIA is a very strong company in South Africa. Probably one of the big secrets. But it's a very strong company. They pay these claims. And, you know, if you're in business, we recently had a client, well, not recently, a year ago, there was unrest, labor unrest down in the Cape. And, you know, in the unrest, the guys decided to set some of the farm equipment alight. And then quickly you run into 15, 20 million rands worth of damage. And if you haven't got that extension, of course, then you've got to pay it yourself.
So this could be for individuals, it could be for small companies,
individuals
it could be for anybody,
and companies, yeah.
To be covered under SASRIA.
That's right, yes.
Now, how important is it to read that fine print? Because normally people take out insurances and they don't read that fine print, especially small business, because they don't have the time sometimes to read it.
Don't we all? Yeah, that's the sickness of the day. You know, we don't have to read because we can watch TV and we can look at a movie. It's very, very important. If there's one thing you've got to do, and that is you've got to read your policy schedule. The other thing is you've got to use an advisor. You know, don't try and do the heart operation yourself. Get a doctor. And that doctor will then advise you because, you know, advisors act within a specific code of conduct and within the reins of the law, which is very strict with regard. You've got to always be put in a position by your advisor so you can make an informed decision.
Yes.
And if I don't tell you about SASRIA and I don't explain it to you, then I'm not putting you in that position. So that's the big thing.
Somebody watching this program now, small businessmen, individuals, and they're saying, you know, I need to speak to IntegriSure about the SASRIA. How do they get in touch with you?
They can give us a call or they can visit our website, www.integrisure.co.za, or our call center, always there, 0860 055 055.
055 055 is as easy as that.
0860 055 055.
Arnold, thank you so much for telling us about SASRIA.
Thank you for having me.
There you go. That was Arnold van der Linde. He is from IntegriSure. He is the executive chairman from IntegriSure, chatting to us about SASRIA. A very important cover, as you heard there. But let's now move on to other stories. South Africa's High